You see, life has a wicked sense of humour. The same person that once called me useless now wants to know how I gave birth to triplets. Imagine. Anyway, let me introduce myself properly. My name is Rita, and this is the story of how I went from being the wife who was blamed for everything to the woman who walked into her ex-husband's wedding with 3 beautiful babies and a smile that said, "God, dotter my bread." Now let's rewind, because before every sweet revenge, there's usually one bitter beginning. I was 24 when I married Tony, a fine, tall, chocolate-skinned man with a voice that could convince you to sell your father's land and thank him for buying it cheap. When Tony smiled, even your village people would clap for you and say, "You have found love." We met at a friend's wedding in Ikeja. He was on the groomsman's side, I was one of the bridesmaids. You know that kind of chemistry that doesn't wait for DJ to play romantic song before it starts? That was us. By the time the bride threw her bouquet, Tony had already thrown words at me like, "I don't know if you're from heaven or from Sugar Factory, but either way, you're too sweet to ignore." Long story short, 8 months later, I was answering Mrs. Rita Tony. I thought love had finally found me. I believed all those Instagram quotes, "A good woman can change a man." Well, let me tell you, my sisters, you can't change a man who's comfortable being nonsense. The first red flag wore perfume and carried a baby. No, not my baby. Tony's son, a cute little boy named Brian, innocent, full of life, but every time his mother Chioma called, my stomach would twist. Tony always said, "Baby, Chioma and I are just co-parents." Nothing more. Nothing more that he called every night. Nothing more that he still sent transport money to for the boys' school fees. Each time I brought it up, he would say, "You're my wife, Rita, stop acting insecure." And I, in my foolish loyalty, would swallow it like Panadol for someone else's headache. The second red flag came slowly, like Harmattan cough. We had been married 1 year and no sign of pregnancy. Me, I wasn't too worried. After all, God's time is the best time. But Tony started behaving like he bought a calendar from heaven. Every month, when my period came, he would sigh and mutter, "Ah! God, what kind of barren woman did I marry?" At first, I laughed it off. I prayed, fasted, even sowed seed at church. But when your husband starts comparing you to his ex because she has a child and you don't, my sister, that's not marriage again, that's emotional warfare. One night, he said it to my face. "I already know I can have children, Rita. I have proof. Maybe the problem is you." Those words hit me harder than slap. But I tried to be understanding. I told him, "Let's both go to the hospital. Maybe there's something we can fix." Tony frowned. "I don't need doctor. Brian is my proof. No, you dem suppose check." So I went alone, test after test, hospital after hospital. I lay on those cold metal tables while nurses poked me with needles like I was a pincushion. I drank bitter herbs, did scans, prayed, cried and begged God for mercy. Guess what the doctors said? "Madam, you are perfectly fine, no problem at all. You can conceive any time." I came home smiling that day, holding my test results like certificate of freedom. I rushed to show Tony. He didn't even look up from his phone. "That's good," he mumbled. "Tony, this means," he cut me off. "Don't start again, I beg. I already get peakin'. Stop dragging issue." That night, I cried until my pillow soaked. Then came the money issue. Tony started saying business was slow. "Customers no day come to the auto workshop," he said. We started owing rent. The landlord started greeting us with frown. PHCN disconnected us twice. And each time I tried to ask about his savings, he would shout, "You think money day fall from heaven?" I had some savings from my job. Small money I'd been keeping for our future. But Tony found a way to turn my savings into his ATM. "Baby, just lend me 50K. I'll pay you back when I fix one customer's car." He never ever paid back. Before I knew it, my account balance was singing the national anthem of zero. But the worst part wasn't even the money. It was how he started looking at me, like I was furniture that had outlived its purpose. He never hit me with fists, oh no. Tony was too smart for that. But he had this way of grabbing my wrist too tightly or pressing my shoulders when he was angry. From outside it looked like affection, but me, I knew the pain. And when he spoke, his words were like razor blades dipped in pepper. "You're lucky I married you," he would say. "Who go marry woman we know fit carry bell?" He would compare me to Chioma. "That woman no get wahala. She born me boy straight. You just stay here wasting my destiny." I became a shadow of myself, always apologizing, always trying to be better. I cooked his favorite soup, washed his clothes, and even smiled when he came home late at night smelling like strange perfume. For 10 years, I carried his disrespect like handbag. 10 long years of pain, lies, and humiliation. But I still had my secret, yes, little secret. Over the years, I had managed to save secretly another $12,000. That's roughly 9 million naira. Don't ask me how. Between my salary from the bank, my side hustle of selling wigs on Instagram, and the little I squeezed of monthly allowances, I had built it quietly, bit by bit. That money was my secret pride, my nest egg. I kept it away from his knowledge for us. Yes, of course, for I and Tony. I had dreams for it. Maybe one day I and Tony would finally buy a small house somewhere peaceful, or maybe, just maybe, use it for fertility treatments. After all, 10 years of marriage and no child can turn even the strongest woman into a prayer warrior. But the day Tony found out about that money, everything changed. It was a Tuesday afternoon, the kind of Tuesday where PHCN took light, as if to remind people they still had power over their lives. I was folding clothes when Tony suddenly said, "Wait, babe, you mean you have how much saved up?" I looked up, smiling faintly. About $12,000. Tony froze. His eyes widened like someone who just saw his village masquerade appear in broad daylight. 12 what? Thousand, Rita repeated, her voice soft, unsure of why he looked like that. He stood up slowly, pacing. "You mean you've been sitting on $12,000 while I'm here stressing about how to pay rent, car repairs, and everything else?" "I was saving it for us, Tony," she said quickly. "For our future. Remember how little by little you collected my other savings from me? We can use it for our future, or maybe for—" "Our future is now," he cut in sharply. "Rita, you don't get it. I've been grinding for years, trying to catch a break, and finally, my guy Jack just told me about this business opportunity. Dry cleaning. He's opening a second branch and he wants me to be his partner. Babe, this could change everything." Rita blinked. "Dry cleaning? Yes, now. You know how people in Lagos like to look fresh. Imagine our own place in Lekki. You won't need to stress again. No more wigs, no more hustle." She wanted to say no. Every fibre in her being screamed, "Don't do it." But Tony was talking sweet. His voice had softened. His eyes gleamed with that rare warmth she hadn't seen in months. He even called her babe twice, which was a miracle on its own. "How much does he need?" she asked, her heart already losing the battle. Tony's eyes lit up instantly. "All of it. The whole 12,000. Rita froze. "All?" "Babe, think about it," Tony said, his voice suddenly smooth like soaked Gary. "Once the business takes off, we'll make it all back and more. Then we can even go abroad for the fertility treatment. Abai, just imagine you, me, and our baby in matching pajamas." Her chest tightened. The mention of a baby, that one word, melted every wall she had built around her heart. So that night, she did it. She withdrew everything, all her sweat, all her quiet sacrifices, and placed it into his hands. Tony kissed her forehead gently and whispered, "You won't regret this, my queen. This is the beginning of our real life." And like a fool in love, she believed him. Rita even recorded him that night, laughing and making promises. She didn't know why. Maybe some part of her already knew she would need proof someday. The business did take off. Within 6 months, Tony was strutting around like Dangote's younger brother. He started wearing designers he couldn't even pronounce, driving to the shop in sunglasses even when it was raining. Money changed him, and not in the God has done it way. More like in the I don't know this man again way. He started staying out late, smelling of perfume she didn't buy, and calling her Madam Rita like she was his employee. The way he said it, Madam, had so much insult hidden inside that Rita would just laugh it off to stop herself from crying. The phone calls with Chioma, yes, that same Chioma, the ex-girlfriend who once swore she was happy for them, started getting suspicious. At first, it was just checking on Brian, their son. Then it became long calls at night. Then Tony started visiting often to help with homework. Before long, helping with homework became spending the night because, according to him, Brian's school play was too early in the morning. Rita kept quiet. She told herself, maybe it's just stress. Maybe he'll come around. But deep down, she knew. While she was budgeting money for Rice and Gary, Tony was splashing millions at fancy restaurants, taking Chioma and her son on family outings. He even bought Brian a new iPhone, the same man who once told Rita they couldn't afford DSTV subscription. The end came on a Thursday. Rita would never forget that day. She had left work early, excited. She wanted to surprise Tony with his favourite meal, pounded yam with a goosey soup, plenty goat meat, and tell him she had finally saved enough for a weekend getaway in Calabar. She opened the gate quietly, humming a love song under her breath. But before she could even reach the door, she heard voices, familiar voices. Tony's deep laughter and Chioma's shrill giggle. Rita froze. She pressed her ear against the door. "I beg, that woman is just pitiful," Chioma was saying, her tone dripping with mockery. "Still cooking for you, like your husband of the year, 10 years, no child, and she's still day-form wife." Tony chuckled. "Don't mind her. I'm just waiting for the right time to end things. I don't need her anymore. The business is booming now." Chioma laughed. "End it already. You don't owe her anything." "Ah, she'd go drag me for money if I rush it," Tony replied. "Technically, she helped me start the business." Chioma snorted. "How much could she have helped, I beg?" Tony laughed loud, proud. "She gave me $12,000, her entire savings. I didn't even ask twice. She just handed it over, like I was some kind of god. That woman loves me too much for her own good. If I ask for her kidney, she go give me both." They both burst into laughter, the kind that cuts through flesh. Rita stood outside, shaking from head to toe. She felt her soul leave her body. She didn't barge in, she didn't shout. She just walked back to her car, sat there for 2 hours and cried silently. By the time she went back in, Chioma was gone. Tony was watching football, eating groundnuts and pretending the world was fine. "Hey babe," he said without even looking up, "what's for dinner?" Rita wanted to scream, but she didn't. She went into the kitchen and made his food, watched him eat, smiling, laughing, while her heart broke into dust. 3 days later, Tony came home, dropped some papers on the dining table and said casually, "Sign this." "What's this?" "Divorce," he said, not even blinking. "Rita, it's not working. Let's end it like adults." Rita froze. "Tony, please, we can fix this. We can. I beg," he snapped. "There's nothing to fix. You know what? I don't even love you like that anymore." And that was it. 10 years of marriage boiled down to, "I don't love you like that." Rita looked at the papers, then at him. "What about the business, the money I gave you?" Tony paused at the door, adjusted his shirt and said coolly, "That was a gift, Rita. You can't take back a gift." Then he walked out, humming the same love song she had hummed 3 nights ago. That night, Rita sat alone in the dark, listening to the recording she made months earlier, Tony promising to love her forever. She laughed bitterly. Forever, apparently, expired in 10 years. Within 1 month, Chioma and her son, Brian, had moved into Rita's house. The same house Rita had helped Tony build with her blood, sweat and God when prayers. Within 2 months, the divorce was finalised. Quick and clean, like Tony was wiping crumbs off his shirt. By the 3rd month, Rita was dragging her last Ghana must-go bag into the back of her old Toyota Camry, staring one last time at the compound she once called home. The gateman avoided her eyes, pretending to sweep imaginary dust. She sat behind the wheel and sighed. "No husband, no house, no child, not even a pet lizard," she muttered. "See my life outside." At 34, she was starting again, from zero. And the only place left to run was back to Akkad, to her mother's old house. Mama Joy was already sick when Rita arrived. She had tried to hide it. Typical Nigerian mother behaviour. "Don't worry, my daughter, it's just small tiredness," she would say, even while clutching her chest like someone auditioning for a drama role. Diabetes and high blood pressure had dealt with her. The doctor said she needed rest, a better diet, and less stress. But how do you rest when you're working 2 jobs just to buy your own medicine? Once upon a time, Mama Joy ran a small restaurant called Mama Joy's Kitchen, a local spot where taxi drivers and office workers came to eat real food, not those Instagram spaghetti with 1 shrimp on top. But when she fell sick, she had to close it down. 2 years later, when Rita came home, the place looked like a ghost kitchen. The signboard had faded, the chairs were broken, and a colony of lizards had apparently taken over the dining area. That first night back, Mama Joy looked at her daughter with tired eyes full of love and regret. "I'm sorry you have to see me like this, my child," she said quietly. "I wanted to be stronger when you came home." Rita held her hands and smiled weakly. "Mama, you have nothing to be sorry for. I'm the one who should be apologizing. I should have been here helping you instead of chasing a man that didn't even chase me back." Mama chuckled softly, shaking her head. "Don't you dare regret loving somebody, Rita. That's not weakness. That's strength. The ability to love deeply. That's what makes us human. Don't let that foolish man steal that from you." Rita nodded, but deep down, she felt hollow, like somebody had scooped out her insides and replaced them with silence. She couldn't sleep. She couldn't eat. Some days she just stared at the ceiling fan, counting the blades as they turned, 1, 2, 3, 4, because thinking hurt too much. Then one afternoon, someone knocked on the door. He was tall, dark-skinned, with the kind of smile that made you blink twice. His name was David, a freelance documentary photographer from Lagos who had come to a cut to film a series on old abandoned landmarks in the city. He wanted to document Mama Joy's closed-down restaurant. "Madam, I know it's not open, but there's something beautiful about this space," he said with his soft voice. "You can tell people used to love this place." Mama Joy's face lit up like Nipa just brought light. She immediately invited him in for malt and ground nuts, because Nigerian hospitality. Before Rita knew it, David had become a regular visitor. He'd come with his camera, sit and chat with Mama for hours. They'd talk about the old restaurant days, how men used to queue just for Mama's jollof rice, and how one customer once proposed marriage after tasting her pepper soup. Rita, on the other hand, stayed out of sight. She wasn't in the mood to entertain anybody, especially someone cheerful. She would sneak out to the backyard whenever he visited, pretending to be watering dead plants. One evening, David caught her. She was sitting quietly on the back porch, her head buried in her palms. He stood there awkwardly for a moment before saying, "I won't talk if you don't want me to. Can I just sit here with you?" She raised her head slightly and shrugged. So he sat beside her. They didn't talk. He didn't ask questions. He just sat there, staring into the distance with her, like silence itself was healing. For the first time in months, Rita took a deep breath that didn't hurt. It took her 3 months to tell him everything. 3 months of David showing up every weekend, bringing groceries for Mama Joy, helping her fix leaking pipes and replace burnt bulbs, without ever expecting anything in return. When Rita finally opened up, she told him everything. The 10 years of marriage, the $12,000 she gave Tony, the betrayal, the laughter behind her back, everything. David didn't pity her. He got angry. "That man is mad," he said simply. "How can someone look at you and think, 'Let me ruin her life'? He's cursed." Rita laughed a little through her tears. "I gave him everything, David. My love, my time, my money, everything." He looked at her softly. "And none of that was the problem. The problem is he was never man enough to deserve any of it." That night, for the first time in a long time, Rita slept without tears. Little by little, she began to rebuild. She started therapy. She took Mama to her doctor's appointments. She began cooking again, experimenting in the old restaurant kitchen. One afternoon, she walked into the dining room and stood in the center, imagining life in it again. The tiles were cracked, the paint was peeling, but the walls felt alive. "What if we don't reopen it like before?" She said to Mama one evening. "What if we do something new, something healthier, like fit fam meals for people who want local food?" Mama raised an eyebrow. "Fit fam? In a cut?" Rita laughed. "Mama, times have changed, oh. People now eat salad with ponmo inside." So she started researching. She read about small businesses, food trucks and meal prep services. She went to the library, learned about marketing, packaging and nutrition. She even took a free online course on healthy Nigerian cuisine for busy people. The idea became clear: affordable, healthy, homemade meals, quick to buy, easy to love. Smoothies, vegetable rice, oat swallow, grilled fish, salad with real spice, not those boring ones. But dreams cost money, and Rita had none. So she started small. She got a morning job at a local supermarket, arranging bread and shouting, "Madam, your change," every 5 minutes. Then at night, she cooked and tested recipes in Mama Joy's kitchen. Mama became her chief taste tester. "This one end," she'd say, munching on roasted plantain quinoa bowl, "is giving rich people food. You will blow, my daughter." Rita wanted to believe her, but fear still sat quietly in her chest. What if she failed again? Then one evening, while she was cleaning up, David walked in with his camera bag. "Let me help you," he said. Rita laughed. "Help me how? You know cooking?" He smiled. "No, but I can help tell your story. Let me film this journey, how you rebuild this place. Let people see it." "David, I can't pay you." He shrugged. "Who said anything about money? I just want to be part of something that matters. And you, Rita, you matter." That was the moment something inside her cracked. Softly, beautifully. She didn't say it, but that was when she started falling for him. Over the next 2 years, David filmed everything. Rita's morning runs to the farmer's market, her experiments, her failures, like when she nearly burnt down the kitchen trying to bake puff puff with honey, and her small wins, like her first catering order from a local gym. He never made her act perfect. He just showed the truth. A broken woman rebuilding herself, one meal at a time. 2 years of sweat, tears, therapy, and small smiles later, Mama Joy's kitchen reopened. This time with a new signboard. Mama Joy's Fit Food, Healthy Meals, Niger Taste. The first day, the line outside was long. The smell of grilled fish filled the air. People laughed, clapped, took pictures. Mama Joy was there, wearing her Ankara apron, proudly serving food like she was feeding the president. David stood beside Rita, recording, his camera not on the food, but on her. She looked at him and smiled. "You're still here," he smiled back. "I told you, I'm not going anywhere." She laughed. It had been 2 years since that humiliating day when Tony threw me out for not giving him a child. Imagine 10 whole years of cook cleaning, fasting, and praying like Hannah, only to end up replaced by Kioma the ex, who apparently came back with a son and a fake accent. 2 years straight that man asked me out. 2 years! I kept saying, "David, I beg, I'm still healing," and he'd just laugh and say, "No wahala, Rita. I'm not going anywhere." I thought he was joking until I realized he meant it. The renovation of Mama Joy's old restaurant was the real-life version of War and Peace. I couldn't afford to hire a contractor, so I became one. YouTube became my professor. I learned how to fix tiles, repaint walls, and even change a light switch without electrocuting myself, though I nearly did once. David would come around with his small camera, snapping pictures of my struggle like one documentary filmmaker for Netflix. "Don't film me like that, I beg. I look like a housemaid." I'd shout from the top of a ladder, paint all over my hair. He'd just grin. "That's the beauty, Rita. Real story, no filters." It took time, but slowly, Mama Joy's Fit Food, Healthy Meals, Niger Taste began to take shape. The walls went from dull brown to warm yellow. The air smelled like grilled fish and plantain. I decided to focus on healthy, affordable meals with a touch of Niger. Salads that actually taste like something. Smoothies with ginger and Zobo vibes, and rice bowls that didn't make you feel guilty. Mama Joy, my sweet mother, was the heart of it all. Even with her diabetes, she'd sit in the corner, fanning herself and tasting everything. When we finally opened, I was so scared that first morning. I stood behind the counter, pretending to clean a spoon, praying that at least one human being would show up. By 9 a.m, there was a queue outside. By noon, we were out of smoothie ingredients. By 3 p.m, I was sweating like roasted yam. It felt like the heavens had finally said, "Rita, take small joy, you don't suffer." But make no mistake, success did not come easy. For months, I barely slept. I'd wake up before dawn to buy vegetables at the Akat main market, fight with stubborn pepper sellers, come back, cook, serve, and still handle the accounts. Sometimes I'd collapse on the couch with my apron still on. David was always there, filming everything. When my blender broke at midnight, he filmed it. When I screamed out of joy the day we made 50,000 in one afternoon, he filmed that too. "You should post these videos," he kept saying. "People need to see this hustle." I hissed. "Post K? Before Tony and Chioma go start monitoring Spirit on Instagram? Abego!" But truth be told, I was scared. Scared that if the world saw me, they'd also see how much I'd lost. "What if I fail again?" I asked David one night, my eyes tired from chopping vegetables. He looked at me and smiled. "Then we start again." "But what if you don't fail, Rita? What if this is the beginning of everything?" That was the first time I actually believed I could win. A few months later, Mama Joy's Fit Food became the talk of the town. We had regulars, teachers, bankers, and mechanics who swore our millet drink healed their stress. I even had 2 employees who called me Madam Fit. And me? I was no longer the broken wife that Tony abandoned. I had grown backbone, hips, and peace of mind. Then one Friday evening, as the golden sunset washed through the restaurant windows, I looked at David packing up his camera. "Ask me again," I said, leaning on the counter. He blinked. "Ask you what again?" I smiled. "You know what?" His grin widened. He dropped the camera and walked closer. "Rita Okafor, will you go out to dinner with me?" "Yes," I said softly. This time, yes. Our first date wasn't anything fancy, just a quiet spot in town, suya, cold zobo, and laughter that made my cheeks hurt. David didn't talk too much. He listened. He asked about my dreams, my fears, and my plans for Mama Joy's fit food. At the end, he said, "Rita, I have a confession. I've been in love with you since the first day I saw you arguing with that carpenter." I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my zobo. "So am I shouting you fall in love with?" He shrugged. "It was passionate shouting." 6 months later, he proposed properly. No drama, no kneeling with crowd shouting, "Say yes!" Just a simple Sunday morning, both of us in the kitchen chopping vegetables for meal prep. "Rita," he said without looking up from the chopping board, "will you marry me?" I laughed. "Are you serious?" "Yes." "Okay," I said, just like that. Mama Joy screamed louder than me when she heard the news. "Ah, finally! My daughter don't collect ring! David, may your camera never spoil!" We had a small court wedding, just me, David, Mama Joy, and his parents. I wore a plain white gown from nearby market, carried a bouquet of sunflowers, and felt more beautiful than I ever did at my big useless wedding with Tony. It was small, but it was real. 3 months after our wedding, everything changed. Again. First, David convinced me to finally post one of the videos he had been making of my journey. I agreed, mostly to keep him quiet. It was a simple clip, me talking about food and purpose, about how what we eat can heal not just the body but the soul. We posted it on Instagram. In 1 week, it hit 20,000 views. By the second week, 100,000. Before I could even breathe, bloggers were reposting it, customers were ordering from Lagos and Abuja, and people were calling to franchise Mama Joy's Fit Food. I couldn't believe it. My little restaurant in Accra had gone viral! Then, 2 weeks later, something else happened. Something that shook me to my core. I was working late one night, blending smoothie orders, when dizziness hit me like a polite shock. I thought it was stress at first, but when nausea joined the party, I knew something was up. I took 3 pregnancy tests, all positive. I sat on the bathroom floor, shaking, laughing, crying, all at once. "Gotta beg, no be April Fool's joke, oh!" The next morning, when I told David, he burst into tears. Real ones. He hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "We're going to have a baby," he whispered, voice trembling. And for the first time in my life, those words didn't hurt. They healed. The so-called barren wife would be sitting in a doctor's office holding a positive pregnancy test. I'd have laughed them straight back to their ancestors. After 10 years of trying with Tony, 10 good years of swallowing herbs, fasting like Elijah, and crying in secret, I had accepted my fate. According to Tony and his dear mother, my womb was as empty as what they haven't seen before. Now here I was, holding David's hand as the doctor smiled at us. I could barely breathe. "Doctor, please just tell me it's not malaria," I whispered. David chuckled softly, squeezing my hand. "Even if it's malaria, we go treat Am together." But the doctor turned the screen toward us with a proud grin of someone about to deliver national news. "Madam, congratulations! You're pregnant!" For a second I froze. My brain didn't register it. "Pregnant? Me?" I blinked. "Doctor, are you sure the test machine will spoil?" David, loud, joyful, unbothered. "Rita, the woman said you're pregnant, possessed." Tears filled my eyes. I couldn't stop shaking. After everything Tony said, to all those humiliating hospital visits and silent nights, this felt like God himself writing a comeback story. But wait, the story didn't end there. 4 months later, the doctor called us back for a scan. I was already walking like Queen, rubbing my little stomach like I had made the moon myself. But when the doctor turned that screen again, her eyes widened. Madam, you are carrying 3 babies." I sat up. "3 what?" "Triplets." David's mouth dropped open. "Ah, Doctor, you mean one boy, one girl, one bonus? The doctor laughed. 2 boys, 1 girl. I burst into tears right there. David just stood frozen, staring at the screen like he'd just witnessed a miracle, and honestly, we both had. That day, everything changed. David held me in the hospital hallway and whispered, "See, Rita, this is proof. You were never the problem. You were just loving the wrong man." I laughed through tears. "So what are we now? Parents of a whole football team?" He smiled mischievously. "Correction, rich parents of a whole football team." I frowned. "Rich? Which one is rich again? We still day pay off blender debt." That's when he smiled, the kind of smile that could confuse angels. "Rita, there's something you need to know." He pulled a small velvet box from his bag. Not a ring this time, but a car key. "From the day I met you, I wasn't just a photographer. I'm actually the owner of Golden Frame Studios and one of the major investors in Akkart's biggest tech company, Dava Corp." I blinked. "You mean you're a billionaire pretending to be broke?" He nodded, looking almost shy. "I wanted to see who would love me for me, not my money. And you, Rita, you didn't even let me pay Puff on our first date." I was silent for a full second. He smacked his arm playfully. "So you let me hustle on YouTube learning to fix tiles while you had billions?" He laughed, dodging my playful hit. "You said you wanted to build something with your own hands. And you did. I just wanted to see your fire." I rolled my eyes dramatically. "Fire that almost killed me. Anyway, you better double the house help when these babies come, oh. I'm not about to be mothering triplets and washing blender cups." The pregnancy wasn't easy. Carrying 3 babies in this hot weather was no joke. Some days I looked like a portable drum. My feet were always swollen, my back was shouting, and even breathing felt like an Olympic sport. Mama Joy became my nurse, my chef, and my personal comedian. She'd sit near my bed, fanning me with her wrapper, saying, "Ah, Rita, see how you are glowing like roasted plantain. Triplet, Mama, you don't win life." David treated me like fragile gold. He'd feed me fruit salad, rub my back, and still find a way to make me laugh when I felt miserable. The man would kneel beside me and whisper, "Remember when you thought you were barren? Now even your womb is doing buy one, get 2 free." I nearly choked laughing. "You this man!" You go just use mouth spoil, everything romantic. When our babies finally arrived, 2 handsome boys and 1 precious girl, it was like the heavens opened just for us. David named the first boy Ethan, I named the second Emmanuel, and Mama Joy, not to be left out, named our little girl Peace. Peace. Holding those babies for the first time, feeling their tiny fingers curl around mine, I broke down completely. David held me and whispered, "Look what we made, Rita." I smiled weakly through tears. "We didn't just make babies, David. We made a life." For the next 2 years, we lived like kings and queen peace. Mama Joy's fit food, healthy meals, Niger Taste had become a sensation across the country. Our healthy meal packs were in supermarkets, offices, and even airports. We had contracts with airlines and hotels. My face wasn't public, but my brand spoke for itself. David built me a new restaurant, massive, with glass walls and palm trees at the front. People came from all over Akkart just to take selfies there. And yes, he finally bought Mama Joy her dream bungalow, with enough space for her garden and her gossip visitors. Our 3 kids were our joy. Ethan was bold and curious, Emmanuel quiet but smart, and Peace. Oh, that girl had her father's mischievous smile. Everything was finally perfect, or so I thought. One Sunday evening, we were setting the table for our usual family dinner. Mama Joy was folding napkins, David was chasing Peace around with a spoon of pap, the boys were playing with their toy cars, making enough noise to wake the ancestors. It was chaos, but sweet, warm chaos. Then Mama Joy's phone rang. Unknown number. Normally she ignored such calls during family time, but for some reason she answered. "Hello?" she said, balancing the phone on her shoulder. I saw her expression change from calm to something else. Her eyes met mine and my stomach instantly knotted. She said softly, "Rita baby, come here." I walked closer, heart pounding. Who is it? Her voice dropped. It's Tony. For a moment I felt like the air was sucked out of the room. I hadn't heard that name in years. It felt wrong. Just walking into my living room. Mom, hang up, I said quickly. Just hang up. But Mama Joy's eyes narrowed. No, I want to hear what nonsense he has to say. She listened quietly, her face turning from calm to full-blown irritation. Then she said, "Oh, really? Is that so? That's nice for you." David had already noticed something was off. He quietly took the kids upstairs, not saying a word. When Mama finally ended the call, she looked at me for a long time. "What did he want?" I asked, though part of me didn't even want to know. Mama hissed. "Your ex-husband Tony is getting married to Chioma, and he said he wants to invite you to the wedding. Imagine that rubbish." I blinked. "Invite me? To what? The grand reopening of his foolishness?" Mama slammed her hand on the table. "My daughter, the man said he wants you there so he can appreciate you for all you did for him. Can you imagine? Appreciation my foot." I burst into laughter so hard tears came out. The audacity of that man! Does he think I'm still the same crying Rita he left? Mama Joy crossed her arms. "The question now is, what are you going to do about it?" I thought about ignoring it, deleting the number, pretending nothing happened. But something in me, some fire that a cart had built, refused to stay quiet. Tony thought I was still that broken, childless woman he could humiliate. He had no idea that I was now a wife, a mother of triplets, and married to a billionaire he couldn't even afford to be. When Dave came back downstairs, I told him everything. He was silent for a few seconds. Then he smiled slowly, a dangerous smile. "So he thinks he can embarrass you?" "Exactly." He stepped closer, brushed my cheek with his hand and said, "Then let's give him a performance he'll never forget." I raised a brow. "You mean we're going?" He nodded. "We're going. You, me, and the triplets. Let him meet the woman he once called barren, with 3 living miracles and a husband richer than his imagination." I grinned, the sarcasm already dancing on my tongue. "Oh, it's going to be a beautiful disaster." David laughed. "Correction, my queen. It's going to be a beautiful revenge." The Woman Who Walked into Her Ex-Husband's Wedding with Triplets by Maxwell. By the next morning I was no longer angry, just curious. Curious to see what kind of foolish confidence made Tony think it was okay to invite his ex-wife, the barren woman he had humiliated for 10 good years, to his wedding. I mean, who does that? Nigerians are bold, but that one was boldness with pepper on top. David and I sat in the living room, scrolling through Tony's social media. The man had turned himself into Nigeria's self-proclaimed success story. Every post screamed, "I'm doing better without her." He was always posing beside one of his fancy cars, Range Rover today, Mercedes tomorrow, always in designer clothes that I could bet were bought on credit. His captions, childish poetry about real love and second chances. David chuckled, scrolling through the page. "Ah, look at this one." He wrote, "God really restores what the devil tried to steal." I rolled my eyes so hard I nearly saw my brain. "The talk about must be me, Abby, because I don't understand." Then he swapped in and paused. "Wait, look at this." It was a picture of Tony and Chioma at their pre-wedding photo shoot, shot at a hotel in Lagos. Chioma was in a glittering gown, her hands on her waist like she was posing for an award. Tony stood behind her in an expensive suit, grinning like a goat that found yam. The caption read, "Kite to marry my true queen. Some people are lessons, others are blessings." I blinked twice. Did he just call me a lesson? David smirked. "My dear, apparently you're the chapter he skipped to pass his way see in love." We both burst out laughing. It felt good, like medicine. But under that laughter was something sharper, a quiet fire. Tony, he could erase me from his story, thought he could label me as a lesson while dancing in the same success that I funded. He forgot I was the one who gave him the money that started his dry cleaning business. He forgot I was the one who endured insults when he couldn't pay rent, who stood beside him when he had nothing. Now he was posting quotes like one motivational speaker, tu fi aqua. Later that evening, I checked it up again. His business had grown, 3 branches of T&J luxury dry cleaners. A decent brand, if we're being honest. I even admired the branding. His Instagram page was looking cute. But I couldn't help thinking, if I gave birth to that business, shouldn't I at least get visitation rights? David caught me smiling at the screen. What's funny? I leaned back on the couch. Just thinking, my investment finally matured. Too bad my dividend didn't come as cash, but it's okay. God collects interest in mysterious ways. The following week, David and I started preparing for the wedding. Yes, you read that right. I was actually going... I didn't want revenge. I just wanted to show up as peace in human form and let that peace make them uncomfortable. We called Mama Joy to babysit the triplets, but she refused. No, those children will go and see their mother's victory live and direct. So fine. The triplets were coming. 2 boys, 1 girl. 3 little reminders that life laughs last. The night before the wedding, David and I flew to Lagos. We stayed in a penthouse suite at Emerald Palace Hotel in Banana Island. No stress. No show off. Just comfort. That night, while David read bedtime stories to the kids, I stood by the window overlooking the city light. I thought back to the day at Lagos. Heartbroken, broken, alone. Driven off with tears blinding my eyes and 1 suitcase of clothes. Now I was back with a billionaire husband, 3 gorgeous kids, and a thriving restaurant chain, Mama Joy's Fit Food. Healthy meals, Niger taste. The next morning was the D-Day. My alarm didn't even need to ring. My excitement woke me up before dawn. David was still asleep, his chest rising and falling softly. I smiled, thinking, this is the kind of man Tony could never be. At noon, I dressed up. I wore a fitted, beautiful diamond gown that hugged my curves like peace after pain. It wasn't too loud, but it commanded attention. My makeup was soft and rich, expensive simplicity. David stepped out in a perfectly tailored suit. Lord, the man looked like an advert for good decisions. The triplets, Ethan, Emmanuel, and Peace, were in matching outfits, looking like little royalties. At exactly 1:30, our driver pulled up in a long black limousine. David had insisted. This is not about showing off, he said, as he helped me into the car. This is about showing up, with class. The drive to the wedding venue, 30 minutes. My palms were sweaty, but I smiled through it. Every street we passed whispered memories, painful ones. But today I wasn't that woman anymore. We arrived at the event centre, a massive building with glass walls and palm trees lined outside. The parking lot was filled with luxury cars. Clearly, Tony had done well for himself, or at least wanted people to think so. As we stepped out of the limousine, people began to stare, not out of pity, but pure curiosity. My diamond gown shimmered under the sunlight. The triplets' laughter echoed like music, and David stood beside me, looking like peace and wealth personified. The doorman blinked twice before opening the door. "Good afternoon, ma'am." "Good afternoon," I said with a calm smile that could buy silence. Inside, the hall was dripping with wealth, crystal chandeliers, gold drapes, a massive floral arch that probably cost more than my first car. The ushers guided us towards the front. I could hear whisper already starting behind us. "Who are they? She looks familiar." "Wait, isn't that Tony's ex-wife?" I smiled. Perfect. Let the rumours walk before I do. As I scanned the crowd, I spotted Chioma at the far end of the hall, dressed in an overdramatic white gown that looked like it was struggling to breathe. She was surrounded by photographers, clearly trying to create her fairy tale moment. And then I saw him. Tony, standing by the altar, grinning and greeting guests like the king of the world. Until his eyes landed on me. He froze. His face went pale. David leaned closer and whispered, "Well, look who just saw his ghost." I smiled sweetly. "Not ghost, Grace." Tony blinked, his mouth slightly open as he stared at me, and then at the three children holding my hands. His best man nudged him and whispered something, but Tony wasn't listening. He was tilting. The woman he called Baron had just walked into his wedding with triplets. Oh, it was about to be a beautiful day. Most of my children, by 2 minutes, kept whispering, "Mummy, that uncle is looking at us." I didn't need to ask which uncle. I could feel Tony's eyes from across the hall, cutting through the laughter, through the clinking glasses, through the crowd that separated us. He excused himself from his little circle and started walking toward us, his expression frozen somewhere between confusion and disbelief. You could almost see the calculation happening in his head, like a man trying to figure out why his barren ex-wife was standing here, looking like money and happiness had twins. "Rita," he said when he reached us, his voice unsure, almost hesitant. "Hello, Tony," I replied with a smile that could slice bread. "Thanks for the invitation." He blinked, like my calmness offended him. He looked me up and down, my expensive gown that fit perfect, the gold earrings Mama Joy had insisted I wear, the peaceful aura that money and peace of mind bring. He seemed lost. "You look," he began, then stopped mid-sentence. "Different," I offered sweetly. "Yeah, different," he muttered, still staring. His gaze slid to David, who stood beside me with the confident calm of a man who knew his place in my heart. David smiled warmly and extended his hand. "David, her husband. The word landed like a bomb. Tony repeated it softly, like he was testing its taste in his mouth. "Husband." Then his eyes fell on the kids, my beautiful triplets, dressed in matching outfits. They were still holding hands, whispering and giggling, while Peace clung shyly to David's leg. "These are our children," I said proudly. "Ethan, Emmanuel and Peace." "Triplets?" Tony's eyebrows shot up. "Yes!" I said with the kind of satisfaction that could make heaven's gate swing open. He blinked again. I could practically see him counting backward in his head, realizing I'd given birth to 3 healthy children just 2 years after our divorce. The same woman he had labelled barren, the same woman he had made cry herself to sleep for 10 long years. "Congratulations," he said stiffly. "Thank you," I replied, smiling. "And congratulations to you too. Marriage is beautiful, especially when you finally find the right person." The sarcasm wasn't subtle, and his jaw tightened. "Rita," he said after a pause, "I have to admit I didn't expect to see you here." "Oh? I just thought it'd be nice to celebrate your happiness," I said lightly. "After all, as you always said, I helped you get started in life. It's only right that I witness how well you've used my investment." Tony's face twitched. "Yes, well, I've been fortunate. The business is doing well. Chioma and I are happy. Everything worked out exactly as it should." "I'm glad to hear that," I said. "Funny how life always knows where to place us. If you hadn't left me, I wouldn't have met David, wouldn't have started my restaurant, Mama Joy's Fit Food, and definitely wouldn't have had these 3 blessings." Tony blinked slowly like a malfunctioning generator. This wasn't the script he had written in his head. I was supposed to be bitter, broken, maybe overweight from emotional eating, not glowing, successful, and married to someone who adored me. "Wait, Mama Joy's Fit Food?" Tony asked, narrowing his eyes. "Oh yes," I said casually. "We serve healthy Niger meals. Been growing fast. You might have seen us on Instagram or one of those TV interviews." "Ah," he said quietly, recognition dawning. "That's your restaurant?" "The one and only." David chuckled softly, whispering, "He looks like someone just told him Nipa is gone forever." I tried not to laugh. Then I heard a sweet, unfamiliar voice behind me. "Beautiful children," the voice said. We turned with Chioma, the bride herself, looking like she stepped out of a bridal magazine. She was radiant, her smile warm and innocent. "They look just like their mummy," she said, genuinely admiring. I smiled. "Thank you. Congratulations, by the way. You look absolutely stunning." "Thank you," she said, still smiling. "I'm Chioma, by the way, the bride." "Rita?" I said calmly. This is my husband, David, and our children. For a second, she kept smiling politely. Then realization hit her like Harmattan wind. Her lips froze mid-smile. Her eyes darted toward Tony, who suddenly looked like he wanted the ground to swallow him. Rita? She repeated slowly. Yes, I said cheerfully. Tony's ex-wife. It's lovely to finally meet you. My husband then was always busy with you on the phone. Chioma blinked fast, trying to piece it all together. Oh, of course. You're welcome. Any friend of Tony's is welcome. Friend? David muttered under his breath. Nah, this kind friend Dempsey don't invite to your wedding. I almost choked on laughter. Then Chioma's mother appeared, dragging her away to handle some seating drama, but not before giving me one long, curious look that said, nah, this one Dempsey barren? But see her children, like movie poster. As Chioma left, David leaned closer and whispered, if this wedding had subtitles, the caption right now would read, tension rising. We both laughed softly. Tony didn't. He just stood there like a man watching his past slap him across the face. When he finally found words, they were weak. So? They're what? 2 years old? 2.5, I corrected. He frowned again. So you got pregnant almost immediately after we divorced? Yes, I said smoothly. Turns out love is the best fertility treatment. He flinched. Rita, you know I never said I didn't love you. No, Tony, you just treated me like I was furniture. Useful when you needed something, invisible when you didn't. Things were hard then. Business stress, pressure. Pressure from the business I funded. I cut in sweetly. You remember? The one you said was our future? The one that became your empire? He was blushing now, like pepper had entered his eye. Guests were starting to glance over, whispering. Maybe we should talk later, he muttered. Oh, I think we've said everything, I replied. Years ago. David gently took my hand. Come, love, let's find our table before these people start thinking it's a Nollywood sequel. As we walked away, Tony called after me. Rita. I turned. I'm glad things worked out for you, he said quietly, truly. Thank you, Tony, I said softly. I hope you're happy too. And for the first time, I meant it. Just then, as if summoned by fate itself, Tony's mother appeared, in her usual grand style, hips swinging, jewellery clinking, and her handbag tucked under her arm like a weapon ready for battle. Her perfume announced her arrival before her voice did. Ah, my daughter! She exclaimed dramatically, planting her hands on her waist. Tony told me you were barren, but look at you. She waved her hand from my head to my toes like she was inspecting fine art. You are superbly fruitful. The crowd around us turned. I blinked, half in disbelief, half in amusement. She leaned closer, lowering her voice but not her volume. In fact, I have always suspected that Chioma's son isn't my son's blood. This, she pointed at little Brian, who was busy playing with his phone with zero awareness of the scandal about to unfold. This is the proof I have been waiting for. That boy doesn't even have Tony's nose. Look at him. He looks like somebody who eats vegetables, not like Tony who grew up on fried yam and stress. I almost laughed, but before I could, David, the same man who'd been silently watching everything unfold with that calm, knowing smile, spoke up. He folded his arms and said coolly, "There's only one way to end this drama. Do a DNA test before Tony signs any papers, before he legalizes the relationship." The air froze. Even Tony's mother paused mid-eye roll, Tony's face drained of colour. "Mom, that's not necessary." "Oh, it's very necessary," she snapped, her voice sharp as pepper. "If there's nothing to hide, there's nothing to fear. Let's clear this once and for all." A few minutes later, the hospital corridor was buzzing. A medical team was called in immediately. Tony's mother made sure of it. She paced like a detective solving her final case. Samples were taken, Tony's, Brian's and Chioma's sons. Every camera phone in the room was ready for the big reveal. Hours later, the results came in. The doctor adjusted his glasses, cleared his throat, and said the words that made everyone's mouth drop open. Brian is not Tony's biological son. The room fell silent. You could hear a pin drop or Tony's pride shattering on the marble floor. Tony stumbled backward, holding his head. What? That's impossible! But the doctor wasn't done. And according to the results, Mr. Tony, you are medically incapable of fathering a child. For a second, even Tony's mother froze. Then she gasped and clutched her chest like an actress in a Nollywood classic. Jesus, who? My enemy! I just stood there, strangely calm. A part of me wanted to cry, but another part, the tired, healed part, almost wanted to laugh. All the accusations, the humiliation, the late-night tears, all because of a man who didn't even have the ability to give what he claimed I couldn't produce. David shot me a knowing glance, the corner of his lips twitching in silent irony. And that was how Tony's marriage, already hanging by a thread, was officially cancelled. No shouting match, no final plea. Just pure, quiet embarrassment served cold. Within days, the story spread like wildfire. Tony's case became the talk of the town. Every tea joint, every salon, every WhatsApp group had the same headline. Tony accused his wife of barrenness. Now DNA shows he can't father a child. The same people who once pitied me were now sending me, "You see, God doesn't sleep" messages. And as for Tony's mother, she suddenly became very polite whenever she saw me, offering greetings with the kind of humility that only scandal can teach. I didn't celebrate, though. I just smiled. Because in that moment, I realized something powerful. Life has a way of exposing lies, slowly, painfully, but perfectly. Hello, my beloved viewers. What a twist of fate! Life truly has a way of turning tables when we least expect it. Tony mocked and condemned the woman who once loved him with all her heart, not knowing that life was quietly preparing his own test. Sometimes the truth doesn't rush. It arrives right on time with perfect accuracy. And when it does, no one can silence it. Moral lesson: never judge, mock, or label anyone because of what they're going through. The same situation can visit anyone. God has a special way of defending the innocent and exposing the proud. Always choose kindness over arrogance, patience over assumption, and truth over gossip. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up, share it with someone who needs this reminder, and let's talk in the comments. What lesson did you learn from Tony's downfall? And if you're new here, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss our next emotional and life-changing story. Till next time, besties, remember, life may test you, but truth always wins in the end.